Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another edition of Adventures in Careerland. Hello, everyone. I'm your host for this podcast. We are in season 4, episode 6. This is the 44th podcast, so we're making great progress. We were a little unsure we'd get past number 1, but we're making progress, we're growing, we're learning, and we have another great show for you today. I am the career and entrepreneurship consultant in the Riel School Division, and my current office is in the Arts and Technology Center in said division. It houses 13 programs. One of these incredible programs is the Broadcast Media Program. And I am the beneficiary of students who work in that program. They are producing this podcast, and I'm so fortunate to have their gifts alongside me. Even though I'm the old guy, I feel like I'm Martin Short or Steve Martin in that Murder in the Apartment series I've been watching. And I've got 2 Selena Gomez's here. That's what I'm thinking right now.
2 Selena Gomez's.
You know, you have to watch this. I love watching this show.
So what's the name of the series?
Well, let me introduce you first.
Sorry about that.
A little overzealous, but I like that, and that's what I love about working with youth. I've been working with them for 40 years. I love working with youth because they're so full of zeal. I love it. So first we have CJ, identifies they, them, who is one of our producers. Hi, CJ. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
You know what? I'm always just, again, I'm looking for the light in the dark room all the time. So, and you are my little burst of light. We have an extra burst of light we'll talk about in a minute. And of course, André Boisjoli.
Yes.
And he is him. And how are you doing today?
Doing good.
And we asked that with great concern because you just got over COVID. So André, tell us how your COVID experience was. Last time we spoke to you, you were right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I think you went down a dark hole with COVID.
It was bad. So I got the fever for 2 days. So I was stuck to my bed for 2 days.
How big was that fever?
102.
102.
Yeah,
that's hot, baby.
It was hot. Yeah.
So what does that mean? You're sitting in the bed, you're just lying there, or do you have any energy? Like,
no.
Tell us. You're a young person, right? And you've been vaxxed and all that stuff. I guess, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Usually I would consider myself an energetic person. Ish, and I just had absolutely no energy to move. I couldn't move out of bed. Everything hurt.
Really?
It was not fun. No, I remember waking up in the morning and I just felt bad. Everything hurt. It wasn't fun.
Well, you're over it. So,
but I'm over it now. Yeah,
you feel like 100%.
110%. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
because CJ and I were very concerned.
Yeah,
because anyone who gets this now, the vaccine.
How long did you have it for?
I think I had it for about a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I caught it on Monday because my dad had it. And anyways, he got it at a plant or something, and he brought it back home. And anyways, got Monday, and then I think I was fine by Friday.
Well, I'm kind of worried. I'm going to the James Taylor concert, okay, on Thursday.
Oh, really?
Have you heard of James Taylor?
Never heard of him.
I think I have. Yeah.
How have you heard
Jackson
of everyone?
Jackson Brown and James Taylor.
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. People stay just a little bit longer.
Yeah, where's that?
That song, Jackson Brown.
Yeah.
No clue.
Really, CJ?
Oh, I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny times when I thought we'd never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend. James Taylor.
Yeah, James Taylor.
Come on, CJ.
You can keep singing, and I won't know who it is.
Yeah.
This again.
If you want to keep going, go ahead. I'll listen to you say it. I just don't know who it is.
The divide gets ever deeper and longer. Anyway, hey, we have. This is a show that's going to be. I think it's going to be an off the chart amazing one. Okay, because we're bringing today a former student and a student athlete of mine way back in 1993 from River East Collegiate. I knew him as James Alisch in those days, but now he's James, as he likes to be known. And this was an amazing student I worked with. So James, we're excited because we think we have kind of a superstar on the podcast today. So welcome to our podcast.
Well, thanks a ton for having me, you guys. Awesome to be here and awesome to be connected back again with you.
James, how are you, sir?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Andre, good to hear that you're doing better. I think everybody has their own COVID journeys and stories, but great that you're
Well,
You're feeling better?
Well, you went through it too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I've had it a couple of times, fully vaccinated.
A couple of times.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know how much time we have, but some crazy stories. My wife and I we were actually, do you remember when it all went down, when it all broke?
Yes. Without the vaxes, right?
Yeah. When it all broke in Wuhan, my wife and I actually were in Italy. And when we were on a trip in Venice, and when we got off the plane there, we never heard the word coronavirus, didn't know what COVID-19 was, and there were these guys in full-on hazmat suits scanning us as we're getting off the plane in the airport, and no idea what's going on. So the week that we were there, the world just got turned upside down. Anyways, we made it home, and everything was okay. But about 3 weeks later, I got COVID for the first time, and it rocked me pretty good for about a month, and then just recently started traveling again, and unfortunately got it again. And Andre, I hear you. No fun. Absolutely no fun.
Yeah. Well, you got it at the start. That must have been pretty surreal.
Yeah.
It was the start, and just a month ago. So I've had the bookends.
A month ago. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Anyways.
recent.
Well, you're in good shape. Hey, our podcast is all about, hey, I like to talk to folks that I've known over time. We've been in a trench working together in my classrooms or at workplaces. I do a lot of work with lots of business partners, well over, thousands of business partners that we've worked with in the past. We like to get their stories. When people listen to this podcast, they like to hear the story of what calls you made, why you made them, and what journey you were on as you iterated through your pathing. So I'm thinking about you back in River East, way back. What courses were you into, and what were you taking, and what did you like? What did you gravitate towards?
Yeah, I liked 2 courses. I liked anything to do with music, and I liked anything that had me in the gym. Those are the 2 courses that I enjoyed, which is why you and I spent so much time together.
That's right.
But no, I you know what? I would say back in the day, back in high school, struggling through high school, I think I was always, for a crazy reason, a fan of math. So that served me well. So to all you listeners who are wondering whether or not math actually has a place in this world, I'm here to tell you that it does. And then I remember being a big fan of the storytelling of one Mr. Brent Graham, a friend of both of ours, in his entrepreneurship classes. And now in hindsight, knowing that he was faking it till he made it with half the stories, but man, did they teach me a lot. And he was an amazing teacher. So entrepreneurship stories and classes probably helped put a bit of a fire in me in the early days, as well as lessons from you.
Yeah, and Mr. Graham, Brent, and I still keep in touch. And he was an influence to me. He was kind of like a big brother to you. He's like a dad to you, but he's like a big brother to me. And he was full of stories, right? And they were amazing stories. I remember going out at night with him many times, and when we weren't scribbling basketball plays on napkins, he would regale me with some crazy story he had up in Swan River about him working with these people in a coal mine, and just amazing stuff. Those are those opening moments where school has a purpose for everybody. It helps you connect to curiosities and helps you gravitate to certain pieces. So you're finishing high school, and you told me yesterday, because we chatted yesterday, hey, you wanted to make your own way. You didn't want to burden your parents with costing, and you came out of high school, actually junior high first. You came out of junior high with this group of friends we talked about that are amazing. You still keep in touch with a few of them. Talk about that coming out of John Pritchard into River East. And we were excited because we just heard about what a great basketball. I was a basketball coach with Graham. And we were just excited about you guys coming through the pipeline to us. So what was that like with your group of friends? Talk about that and how important those guys were to you. Yeah, no, absolutely. We were a pretty tight crew, and it's funny to reflect on it, because when you're that young, you don't really understand what you have, and you don't really understand what's going on around you. But so just maybe share a couple thoughts on that, and then maybe to your question on lessons learned coming out of high school, share a thought or two on that. But yeah, the group, we just had a ball, right? Like there was a group of us that really enjoyed all sports, but leaned heavily into basketball and volleyball, and there was quite an eclectic mix. If you'll remember, we had at 6'6", we had Mike Leonard by the time he was like 12 years old, and we had Sean Marchand running up and down the court, and Ralphie Lagman and Stan Klaas, and a whole group of us. Mark Dick and Furnace the Furnace came up a year or two behind us, and it was great. And you mentioned it yesterday. I think when you just spend that much time with peers,
through good and bad and just through life. You just develop a high trust. And I think that word that you shared nailed it. And so when we transitioned into high school, we just kind of didn't know any different. We just kind of thought that we just kind of keep doing our thing, and then got exposed and pulled into some other great people from other surrounding schools. And away we went and had a great experience through high school. So that was kind of the privilege that I had of being part of that. I guess you could call it part of a little tribe, which we've just reconnected. I was telling you, just reconnected during COVID. And we shared a cheers over Christmas or New Year's. And Sean and I both live out here in BC, and we stay connected. Every time the Bombers play, we're ripping each other on text and doing our little.
I think that's the one good thing that has come out of COVID is a lot of people have reconnected with people that they haven't talked to in like years.
Yeah.
But their group was amazing, and my son has a group like that, and you have to honor and appreciate that, because not everyone has that, James. Like they don't come out with that group that you guys had, that my son has. My other son didn't have the same exact experience like that, and it's you didn't have cell phones, right? You were outside playing on the streets and hanging out on the curbs and shooting hoops at the local, junior highs and stuff. Why is that experience so special compared? Think about today where kids are on their phone all the time.
Yeah. Why is it special? I reflect now through my own kids, right? Like I've got twin girls that are just about 16 and a son that's about 13. And I reflect on that, chat with my wife. I think, I think the obvious one was it taught us independence, and taught us also how to function as a group. So kind of the two polarities, right? Like how do you grow up quick, because you're a little more out there on your own than some kids are these days, and also how do you function as a team? How do you communicate? As a young group.
And I loved it because you came up as a group playing basketball together, and I got you as the gang as the freshman coach.
Yeah.
What I loved about you guys is you held each other accountable for everything on the floor. And you all were quite aware of your own skill sets and your complementary skills and how you contributed and how you felt responsible for pieces. And I always loved you because you were that guy, and I've talked about this in a previous podcast with another student. Like I just tapped you on the shoulder and said, Jamie, you need to stop that guy. And the look on your face was you were the backup point guard. Like you were such a great athlete. On any other school team, you would have been the major starter. You would have been the point guard, and they never would have taken you off the floor. We had three of you, right?
Yeah, if the guys that I mentioned were on this podcast, they'd probably see that would be debatable, but I appreciate the compliment.
No way. Like we had three guys, and between you, Stan, and Ralph, it was, and we moved Ralph up to varsity, which was a mistake, but it was in my mind, we talked about that, but it was we had so much talent there, and when you guys played, and you loved that call, go stop that guy, over the scoring, which everybody likes to score, but you took that on, like the defense you offered. That's a different level of person and character who loves the defensive part. You and Zolkowski, I don't even remember Kevin.
Oh, Big Z, Kevin,
the Big Z. I talked to him sometime too. Mm-hmm, you loved taking that charge.
Yeah, we did, and let's be honest, right? It didn't hurt the fact that we had a number of guys around us. What Kevin would agree with me, that were just had more God-given talent than us, right? Guys that went on to do some pretty unique things, play professional sports and go on good journeys. But I think you nailed it when you said everybody kind of had a role and supported each other. There was a good amount of developmental tension amongst us as a group all the time, because what we wanted to do is we wanted to win, which is fun to be part of, right? You don't really understand, again, what you're experiencing when you're in it at that age. But looking back, it was a good kind of catapult.
Would you say
to a lot of things.
Would you say basketball, with having teamwork and having to work with other people that are usually very different from you, does that kind of go into your work life a bit, that you are better at working with your coworkers as a team and everything?
Yeah, great question, CJ. I think it would probably go beyond basketball. Like I think the group that we had would be, and even into the arts, whether it's music, you're singing a choir, playing in a band, part of drama, whatever your thing is. I think the group that Magnifico was mentioning there, we probably all would have played a number of different sports. A couple of the guys really excelled at volleyball, and a couple of us played basketball
And football.
myself
Football there
personally,
too.
football was probably my best sport. But I think the answer is yes, for sure. And you definitely can take lessons learned from that into your career. If you take the time to, reflect. I think some people have a lower level of introspection. They don't really catch what they're actually learning or benefit from what they're going through. But if you can reflect, and you asked a great question, like, is that transferable? I'd say yes. And I was sharing yesterday on our call, for myself, probably one of the most profound lessons that I took out of that time was that would definitely have transferred into my life, not just career, but definitely life, and then career and businesses. And, I think totally influences me today, is the fact that I was surrounded by people that just had a higher talent level than me. And to compensate for that, I felt every day I had to outwork everybody. And that wasn't necessarily them telling me I had to, but I knew that just to compete or find my role or help the team win, I had to deliver a different level of effort to make up for my lack of ability. And I think that's something true in careers as well. Like, I was on a podcast recently where someone said, what advice would you give someone that's just starting out their career? It's funny, that's one of the things that came out of my mouth. It's when you lack experience in a role, and sometimes it's frustrating as a young emerging leader or person in any kind of role, you're wise to understand and expect that you should compensate for lack of experience with work ethic. And over time, right, that balances out, right? Your experience, you can lean on more. But I definitely would have developed that for sure in those early years wearing a Kodiak jersey. And to be honest with you, sometimes I was pretty frustrated that the effort level wasn't matched. And that's not by everybody, but I think all of us would have been frustrated by that.
I think those are great words too, like motivational words.
Awesome, CJ. That was a great question. You know what I picked up on when you said the reflection was all important.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I do career development throughout the division, I've done it for the past 15, 20 years. When you left, I started a program called the Career Internship Program there at River East. We won all kinds of national awards. It was just about helping students get in touch with themselves. And what I discovered, the key part was, school doesn't give us time to reflect on why we're learning and what we're learning and where it can lead. We just keep compartmentalizing content that we spit out that we need to acquire and keep moving on to the next one. So your reflection piece is huge. Like, as a school piece, I see it as the major weakness in school. There is no time in a 30-credit system in Manitoba for students to stop and ask, why am I taking this? And someone tell me where this leads.
And sometimes even when you ask a teacher, they don't have an answer for you.
Which is the oddest thing. What do you think of that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and I would agree. I think it's not just cool. I think it's symptomatic of society. I think of my organization, and I think of my experiences. And it's also even harder when you're a high achiever and you're someone that is driven and you have high attainment, because you're so oriented on the future and you're oriented on the next goal and what am I trying to accomplish. And then you layer on someone who's a leader and you have more responsibility. So 100%. But one last thing is, some people have a higher natural preference for introspection and some don't. So that right off the bat, some people naturally do that. But when I was listening to you just now, I was thinking, at that age, you're 16, 17, 18 years old. I don't know that students would know how to reflect. Like what are the right questions to ask? And then what do I do with that? And just to be okay that there isn't necessarily an answer, but it's just about processing where you're at and processing your learning, processing your feelings, and that over time you will get clearer, and that's okay. But yeah, I think you nailed it.
No, but that's awesome. It's great to be on the path of the questioning all the time. I think you're absolutely right. It will become clear as you gain more experience. We talk about in this podcast about connecting your dots, but you can't connect them until you collect enough. And then if you just keep collect without looking back on them and reflecting on them, you may not be making the right decisions. You may not be asking the right questions of yourself. It's super important to come up with those questions. And even when you don't have the answer, to keep iterating and pivoting into spaces that help you get this clearer sense of who you are and what's important to you. You know what I mean?
I think
Yeah,
that's one of the things that happens, like, especially if you want to ask a teacher a question about, like, why does this class matter, or why should I use it in the future, and they don't give you an answer, and you lose the motivation to keep asking because you've already said, like, the teacher has already told you, I don't know. So then you're like, oh, okay, well, obviously every teacher doesn't know the answer, so then you won't ask anymore.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. Hey, tell us a little bit here about your path after high school. We're spending a lot of time in high school because we love high school. And because you guys are in
Yeah,
high
we're
school.
in high school
And
right
we
now,
are in
so
high
it makes
school. Yeah,
sense.
yeah. So,
That's
you know what?
okay. That's okay.
I-
Connecting to the listeners, right? Like,
That's
know
right.
your audience. Rule number
Right
one.
on. Right on.
But sure. So just my little bit of my path and
Yeah,
kind of what's
tell
happened.
about the path, what you chose, and you had this entrepreneurial verve all the
Yeah.
time, and you also had it on the court. Like I always saw that in the way you would defend people, the way you would move, the way you would turn to them. It was always incredibly athletic improvisation. With
I can't believe you remember that. That's unbelievable.
no, with great foundational skills, the way you moved your feet. I have pictures in my brain about those teams. That's like, as much as Graham was a storyteller, I was a visualizer of all those things, and I continue to write about them. I write for magazines and different things, and I remember those pieces. I'm just trying to figure out an article about how goalies. I'm sick of goalies falling on their knees.
Falling on their knees, yeah.
I'm so sick of it, and I'm visualizing it because I'm mourning the loss of Guy Lafleur today. Right, this is my hero.
Totally.
I loved him. I told you knew I loved the Habs, right? Everybody knew I loved the Habs. In my room,
still do.
I still do. I always will, and it's painful, but I still do. And it's I'm watching all the highlights of the old Lafleur and Mike Bossy moments. These two great players have passed on, and I'm watching the goalies. I know they kind of suck sometimes, but at least they were standing on their own 2 feet. Like, take it like a man. I'm so tired of these
so
people.
here's something for all you listeners that you just need to connect. So we just talked about reflecting. We talked about teaching. How do you do that? One thing I was going to say is one of the things that we should all be grateful for is the coaches in our life who help us reflect. And I look at you and I'm listening to you and I'm having flashbacks of hearing your voice in the gym at 6:30 in the morning.
Oh man, that must have sucked.
Standing there. Okay, so he wouldn't move. He'd unlock the door, and one or two of us would come in the gym, and he would meet me early because, again, remember, I didn't have the same skill level, so I would have to put in more time. But you would be there with your Tim Hortons coffee, and you'd plant yourself in the gym, and you would just yell at me and make me run and do drills. But you
I think I gently suggested.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Well, this is a different perspective.
The brilliance of what you did, and you would just keep it simple, and it's like elbow in, and then it was just footwork for defense over and over and over and over and over again. And so it doesn't surprise me that's your comment about goalies standing up, because I saw that in you, and you transferred that to me in part when I was 16, 17 years old. So anyways, enough about that. What was your question?
What a mentor.
What a mentor.
Yeah, I'm great. Do you understand like how important I was? Okay.
He's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
He's a pretty big deal.
Because these two guys don't get it.
You went
Anyway,
rambling
again,
on about
I
the
feel like-
Habs.
I feel like Steve Martin and these are my Selena Gomez's from that. You got to watch this series. It's a
No.
great series. It's a murder
man.
in the apartment. I think it's on Disney.
That
It's
doesn't
spectacular.
even sound.
We're all over the place. Before we started recording, I was telling Andre and CJ about your mullet and your
Yeah.
Italian
You need to
locks,
find
and
a
now we're
picture of
talking
that,
about Selena
please.
Gomez.
I'd
know
love
what?
to see a picture.
No bling. I wasn't that typical Italian. I don't have the hairy chest, no heavy bling.
You didn't ride a motorcycle?
But there were friends.
Okay.
There were friends that I worked with from time to time who sometimes, they swim with a fish. There's nothing I can do about that.
But the
Anyway.
mullet.
You sound like the dude in every mafia movie.
Right on. So tell us
Okay.
about the path now. I want
Journey. Okay.
what
sure.
we want to know is what kinds of things you did that you chose to do and moved on. I mean, you're the managing director of 1-800-GOT-JUNK with a lot of other responsibilities there, which means you run the place, which is a pretty big company. It's $1 billion potential company. Where do you start?
Yeah. So so in addition to sports, I worked a lot as a young guy, and I was fortunate to have some connections and family friends that owned a moving company in Winnipeg. And, evenings, weekends, and summers, kind of through the end of high school into university, I would, in the summer times, work 80-hour weeks and, take my $5.10 an hour. And I thought I was banking a lot of coin, and I did. And then, so that taught me work ethic. And I credit that family, the Mueller family, a ton for investing in me in those early days. And then I went tree planting after high school, and went to the University of Winnipeg. And that's kind of when the entrepreneurial journey began for me. And I was in the University of Winnipeg in the Duckworth Center. I don't know what it's called now, but saw a poster for an opportunity to run a business as a student, run a painting franchise, and it said earn $10,000, run your own business. And I was highly skeptical and didn't know the first thing about painting at all, but I had a passion, for business. I was just thinking probably the first business I was ever part of was Graham, and when he launched the Kodiak Shack. So I don't know if that's still around, but gosh. We launched it when we were year group there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember we built that shack?
Physically built it. Oh yeah. And like when I say launched, I mean launched.
We launched a shack in the school. He physically dragged me out. I think, what am I doing? We were building a thing, and we put his face on the door, proprietor. Do you remember that? I loved it.
Oh yeah.
And we sold hockey cards. Do you remember that?
Yeah, hockey cards and
that was your first business, was selling hockey cards?
No.
Anyways, I digress.
We digress. Anyway.
So the opportunity was on a poster there. So I made a call and plugged in and connected with the organization called College Pro Painters, and they'd been around for 25 years at that point, even in the 90s, and they were founded by a guy named Greg Clark out of Thunder Bay, and they were in the business of recruiting and training and teaching student entrepreneurs to operate full cycle exterior painting businesses, and that involved marketing, that involved running a P&L, that involved recruitment, training, management of the whole thing. And so kind of did that, and I took all that stuff that we talked about from our sports conversations, and I got a taste of entrepreneurship, where I experienced the reality of really what you put into something is what you get out of it. And for me, that was a very, very exciting thing. And not only was there no ceiling on what I could earn to pay for my school or buy my first house or whatever it was, but I got to pick my own team. I got to pick who I played with. I got to provide work for lots and lots of people and see them grow and develop, and that was pretty cool. So that I ended up doing that for all throughout my university career. So I kind of ran the business full time, went to school full time, and then ended up staying with the company for what was around 15 years, moving into a role of general manager, where you're kind of like at that point leading a region of a team of 20 to 25 franchisees yourself, and then ultimately moved out to Vancouver in 2021 as a vice president in Western Canada, and kind of led half the country doing that, and had a team of 100 franchisees at that time, and started taking on more responsibility. So that was kind of the College Pro journey. And then
well, think about the College Pro for a second there. Like, you're one who said, what I love about this is you walked by a poster, you saw something. How many people walked by that poster and did nothing and ignored it completely, or didn't even notice it was there? What was your keen eye like? Were you looking for these things when you saw items that you gravitate toward? Because the world is full of people who walk by opportunity and don't even know they've missed it.
Yeah.
Would you say you had a gut feeling? Because I know some people kind of have that feeling like, maybe I should do this, even though that they don't realize it.
I don't know if I had a gut feeling, but I would have like a core principle that I believe in, which is ask questions. And I would have seen that even at that young age, 18, 19 years old. And, I talk to my kids, I kind of got this list of, lessons that I hope you learn from me one day. And one of them is just be inquisitive and ask a lot of questions, ask more questions than you speak. And I think at that moment, I was just like, I want to find out more. Had no idea where that was going, but the opportunity sounded like a good fit. And lucky for me, like those years, I tell you, I was so fortunate to have amazing coaches and mentors pour into me and teach me and coach me on leading people at such, in hindsight, at such a young age. I was just a kid in my 20s. And
so where do you find mentors though? That's a great question. Like, mentorship is enormous, right? When you have the question and somebody can actually answer it with dexterity and insight. What would you say to people who are looking for mentors? Where do you find them?
Yeah. Well, I think you don't have to, it's hard and it's easy at the same time. I think there are people that have, I think what you're looking for is you're looking for people who have a passion to actually do that. I listened to you in your role of, in what you've done with career and entrepreneurship with students for 40 years. Like, you're that guy. right? That's your why. You're looking to invest in people and develop people. I look at what I do. I look at what I do now, and what jazzes me is the opportunity through business to help change lives, invest in people. That's not everybody's jam, right? But there are many, many, many people that would love to support people who have good questions. So I guess I'll sum that all up is look for people who are happy to be asked questions and ask questions of those that are more experienced and older than you.
Like part of that too is you step outside your comfort zones all the time and try things. Is it fair to say you really only find those people when you do that most of the time? Into experiences where you're giving it a shot, you seem to be attracted to it. These people are already there. It is part of that you have to take, smart risks in how you move and what you experience and what you try.
Yeah, those words I couldn't emphasize more. Smart risks, take smart risks for sure. And life is a journey and a collection of taking risks, not stupid ones, but smart risks. If you have the opportunity to take a risk and you kind of follow the 70% rule, and 70% of you says this makes sense, go, move. You're never going to get to 100% or else you just stall. But I think also part of it is luck. Like, life kind of puts people in front of you that you can really learn and develop from. The other thing I will say is I've had this conversation many times over the years with people is when you get out of high school and you're getting into the workforce or you're through university, one of the core questions you should be asking, I believe, from my experience, is how can I develop through this? Talk to me about the development path of people that work for your organization and interview the person that's interviewing you. Like, can you give me some examples of where people in your organization have started and they've actually developed? Yes, I can give you some examples. What were their names? Tell me their stories. Can I talk to them? That, in hindsight, is what I would encourage, Andre or CJ, you to do in a few years, because lots of organizations talk about it, very few do it. But when you do plug into those organizations that take it seriously, and I'm talking about leader-led development at every level of the organization, magic happens and people realize their potential. So
when you're talking about making sure to ask the right questions and everything, would you say you're in a position now where you're the one answering those questions?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm also asking, I think I will never stop asking.
Well, you can never stop learning.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I think I just love to learn. I think an attribute of any high performer would be that they're a constant learner, to their last day. But I think I'm very fortunate. I probably have a bit of a good balance for both of them.
And you mentioned the stories too. Like when you hear a great story, all the way back from Graham telling you this half-baked story about something where you're kind of connect, you leave it and you think about it. When you hear stories today, do they still kind of grab you and twist you around a bit and think, what is it about that person? And when a person generates the great story, I was in an interview for something, because I do lots of interviews for writing. And it's funny you say that, because I inadvertently started asking, when they ask, do you have any questions for us? And most people just say, when will you know if I will get the writing job or something? Because I do lots of writing. And I started asking them a question. The interview went on for another 20 minutes with me asking the questions of this person about, where are you from? How did you get here? It's fascinating. Fascinating about how stories connect to people and how they build relationships with people that you didn't think in the most innocuous ways sometimes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe I'll give you the super fast end of my journey here, and then I'll kind of weave in an answer to your question.
Sure.
So early 2000s, wrapped up the college pro piece, had the fortune of working with a guy named John Neat, did a little bit of consulting. And then I had the great fortune of meeting someone named Brian Scudamore. Brian was the founder of a company called 1-800-GOT-JUNK about 30 years ago, and good friend now. And he was looking for someone to fill a role leading some sales functions and leading the operations of the company at that point, when they were just going through some hyper growth. They had kind of over 370 franchisees, which we call franchise partners, and they just crested 100 million in revenue. And through a mutual connection, a network of his and mine, we connected, and I kind of started in that role with him and the leadership team. And they were in the business of creating stories, like helping people achieve their dream of entrepreneurship through franchising. And that was almost 20 years ago. But my career has been, majority of it has been through or plugged into the franchising world and small business in one form or another. So went on that journey with 1-800-GOT-JUNK up until the recession, had some family things happen that caused a bit of a life turn temporarily, bought a business, not part of a franchise business, grew that business with some partners for 5 years, then ended up coming back to the organization about 8 years ago. Actually, as a franchise partner, came back buying one of our local businesses with Brian, and then quickly kind of merged back into the role of leading one of the brands that we had. Now we've created an organization called O2E Brands. We've got three different brands, 1-800-GOT-JUNK being the largest. But my point is, my career, my life work, almost you can say, or my career has been very connected to, through franchising, helping people experience the dream of small business and entrepreneurship in a structured, systematized way. And the stories I could tell you and the people that I've met and the lives that have been changed through this are just amazing, and gets me up every day, and believe small business is a vehicle to impact people, the economy, lives, and excited about what we're doing right now. So at the end of the day, it's all just people. And you talk about asking questions, like that's at the core of it.
Hey, and that's so life affirming when you're creating stories, people telling their stories of I'm changing myself, I'm being proactive, I'm helping the economy, I'm
taking risks.
I'm taking risks, and I'm getting in touch with my possibilities. For me, that's what career is all about. Are you really getting in touch with your best strengths and how you can make a difference to other people? So this must be life affirming for you. It's gotta be.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. As an old sage, I just want to say I'm very proud of you, man. Going down this path and just changing the lives of others is what it's all about. And I think everyone in our own way changes the lives of others. You're doing it you're scaling this. And
I've been, like I said, I'm no different than you guys. I'm just this
you're
guy
hardworking. You're North
Kildonan.
Who outworks it.
right?
I'm from St. Boniface, who outworks everybody. And that's one of the great messages I get. I'll just work harder than people. I don't always feel as skilled as they do, but I will get as skilled, and I will work on the next skill set, and I'll just outwork everyone and build relationships. I see those pieces in you, but I always saw in you as a great talker, as a great empathizer, as a great thinker in school. And I'm so glad this is happening to you. I'm so glad you're sharing your wealth of who you are with others to help them build what you were and what you are and what their possibilities are. I love this, man.
I just want to highlight something again you said, which I think is so important. Like the work ethic, that's one piece. That's table stakes, but you talked about skill. Like skill when you're in high school, whether you're playing basketball or playing a trombone is one thing, but if I can encourage you, I'm looking at you, Andre and CJ, like the value of being a student of leadership skills, I cannot put enough emphasis on. And if you have the opportunities, any of the listeners who are in high school right now, to connect with business leaders, or not just business leaders, to learn, people sometimes call them soft skills, but learn these skills around, how to select a team, how to coach people. Coaching is providing high support and high direction to change the performance of someone, how to coach someone, how to really listen, right? Magnifico could hold a day-long seminar just on effective listening, how to set smart goals and hold people accountable to smart goals, how to build a culture of accountability, anyways, all these things, like that word skill, it's not just a word. So you combine work ethic with someone who is relentlessly pursuing skill as a leader, and anybody can change the world. And then you take some risks and mix that in, and you can have a pretty good ride. So just wanted to highlight that word. That word is very important to me.
It is, but you're selling yourself short. It takes some unique people to do what you're doing and to share your leadership as model for people. Like those are powerful pieces. I think you're doing great. Listen, we're going to put you through something. I'm sorry. It's one of the lame exercises we do in this podcast. It's called
not lame. It's great.
It's called Quick Cues. They kind of invented it, and we're going to ask you some short, snapping questions. You have to answer quickly. We promise not to comment on any of the any of the answers you give.
No promises.
Yeah, these guys don't know how this thing's supposed to work. But it's quick ones, so it's going to be quick snappers. Are you ready? I'm going to turn it over to CJ for the Quick Cues.
Let's go.
I'm actually not doing the quick cues today. It's going to be Andre.
It's going to be Andre.
It is
Okay.
me. So we'll start off with the first question. Dog or cat person?
Both. Unfortunately, both.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Heck no.
Favorite potato chip flavor?
Lay's barbecue.
What do you put on toast?
Butter and an egg.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Messy or tidy desk?
Tiny.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Neither. If I had to pick one, Star Wars.
What's expired in your fridge?
Nothing. My wife's unbelievable. She would never let that happen.
Starbucks or Tim's?
Both good options. I go Starbucks though. A little flat white is a little grande flat white is where I go.
Favorite social media?
Only social media, LinkedIn. Just LinkedIn for me. My kids keep me up to date on everything else.
It's called the Quick Cues there, man, just so you know. You don't have to explain it all.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
That's why I muted our mics so we couldn't talk.
No, that's fine. What sport do you play?
Basketball.
Outdoors or indoors?
Outdoors.
Favorite genre of music?
Oh man, so much. Hip hop.
Favorite artist?
Oh man, David Hasselhoff. That's not true. Just throwing you.
Toilet paper over or under?
Over.
Morning or night?
Morning.
Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
And your greatest fear?
My children being hurt.
And our last and final question, favorite podcast?
Ron, if you have to think about it.
Your podcast.
There we go.
There you go. That is the correct answer.
He got the answer right. He got the answer right. I'm a little aghast that you had to think about that, James. But
I had to just give him a little nudge and then he got it.
I was trying to
hint.
I was trying to recall.
No, that's an excuse.
That's an excuse. You had to think about it, but that's okay. You came as a good teammate of ours. You came to the right place at the right time to deliver the right answer. So that's what teammates. That's
Congratulations.
what teamwork's all about. Congratulations on that. Hey, Jamie, we really appreciate you taking the time today. This was a lot of fun, and it's so fun connecting with you.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you and what you're doing and the kind of life you're leading and kind of influence you're having on others to build their dreams the way you've built yours. I'm just so proud that you're also on this podcast with us. So thank you, sir.
Hey,
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys, and this is no small deal what you were doing and the messages that you're trying to deliver and the influence that you're trying to have. So it's mutual. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have a few minutes to connect with you and share some stories and laugh, and Andre and CJ, to meet you both. So you guys are doing a good work. I appreciate the chance.
Well, yeah, it was an honor to meet you. It was really something.
Great.
Yeah.
And the
Great
next time you're in
personality.
town, I'm wearing one of these cool shirts. The next time you're in town, the Adventures in Careerland sweatshirt is yours.
Gotta
I will
always
hold
plug.
you to that.
You hold me to
I
that.
will.
I will save one to you because I know, I know you're probably working out. What time do you get up in the morning? I'm thinking because we were talking.
5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, that's what you
Yeah.
kind of
Same
implied
time,
yesterday.
same time.
Yeah,
That's
same
when
time.
I get out.
Yeah, I'm up.
Yeah.
I think I'm just in my deep REM by that time. So
I'm pretty sure Andre sleeps in really late because he's always late to class. So.
yeah, whatever. We don't want to bug him with that. Anyway, thanks so much, James. Appreciate you being here. And that's another edition of Adventures in Careerland.